Good evening. Hi and welcome. Thanks for joining us for SunWest Distance Learning Center's Grade 9 Transition Night. My name's Lori Gasper, and I'm the Ag Coordinator here at the SunWest Distance Learning Center, and I'm so glad that you could join us for our discussion. Over the next 30-40 minutes, we hope that we can answer most of your questions about moving into high school, and we'd love it if, before we begin, if you're comfortable sharing your name and where you're joining us from tonight in the chat in the comment section. And I think as I was standing here waiting to go on, I even saw one of our students already ahead of me with that. So hi, Summer and Theodore. So thanks very much. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Ryan Johnson, who's a vice principal here at the DLC, and he also leads our team of academic advisors. Hi, Ryan.
Hi, Lori. Thanks for having me tonight. I appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
Me too. So can you, before we start, can you tell us a little bit about what people can expect that we're going to go over tonight?
Absolutely. Sure. So tonight, my plan is to help the grade 9 students and their families get a better understanding of what the transition from grade 9 to grade 10 is going to look like. We're going to talk about grad plans. We're going to talk about course selection, answer any questions you guys might have regarding credits and how graduation looks like in terms of number of credits and so forth. So we've got a lot of information to go through tonight.
For sure. And as a parent whose oldest kid is finishing grade 9 and our daughter is going into grade 10 this fall, I have a lot of questions as well. So I'm really keen to be here and to get some direction as well. So for the kinds of conversations that we need to be having with our daughter right now. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Ryan here in a minute to walk us through some of this information. But before I do, we're going to do things a little bit differently than we usually have done in the past. So rather than holding your questions all to the end, we suspect that you'll have questions of the material that Ryan's going to go through as we go through it. And we're going to do our best tonight if you go ahead and type your questions in the questions or the comment section. And we'll do our best to bring them in and try and answer them as we go. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully we'll get to them all, but if not, we can come back and answer your comments after this broadcast ends, or we'll talk about how we can get in touch afterwards. So with that, please go ahead when you're ready and type your questions. In the meantime, Ryan, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Laurie. All right. Well, like I said, I'm here tonight to help the families with this transition. And it's a big transition from grade 9 to grade 10. My job in the past has been a career counselor with SunWest School Division. Like Laurie said, now I'm a vice principal here, but I'm also working with our academic advisors. And what an academic advisor is someone that is going to work with each student individually to help them plan their courses. So before we begin talking about all of our AAs, I want to just go through some of the terminology, some of the words that we're going to be talking about so that I'm not losing us kind of in the jargon here. So first of all, I want to talk about the levels of formal education. So we basically have 4 different levels. We've got elementary, which is basically your K to maybe 5, grade 6, depending on the school. And then we have middle school, which is where most of you reside right now, in the 7 to 9 range. And then secondary schooling is the grades 10, 11, and 12. So that's what we're going to be focusing on, that move towards those 3 grades. And you're going to often hear me talk about post-secondary. And post-secondary is simply any type of schooling that you do after you've done or after you've graduated from high school. So that could be university, that could be colleges, that could be a trades-specific school. There's a number of different things we can talk about, but that's what kind of post-secondary kind of refers to. But like I said, tonight, I want to focus on the secondary portion, okay? So the Provincial Ministry of Education for our province has many aspects that they kind of control. So the ones that really affect you guys the most are, 1 is curriculum, 2, the credit requirements in Saskatchewan, and the third one that they're kind of responsible for is our transcripts. So I'm going to spend most of the time going through these 3 topics. So the first one I'm going to get going here is curriculum, okay? So just like the curriculum that you guys use from in grade 9, we have curriculum for all of our subjects here in high school. And it's basically, it tells us what we need to teach you guys and what skills that you need to learn when you are finished taking a particular class. The next one is credit requirements. This is going to be the bulk of our presentation here, folks. So first of all, when we talk about credits, Okay, that might be a foreign word, but each class in high school is worth 1 credit. Okay, so in order for you to graduate high school in Saskatchewan, you need 24 credits to graduate. And a minimum of those, 5 of them to be exact, for a minimum, have to be at the 30 level. And I'll explain what that 30 level means here in just a minute. So there are 3 types of credits that we have to worry about. The first group is called compulsory. They're required. Those students, you have to take those classes in order to graduate. And we'll go through all of those in just a minute. Then there are certain what we call required electives. And those are required courses, but you do have some choice in terms of which classes those may be. And most of those fall into the science and the mathematics type area. And we'll talk about those when we go through the different types of pathways for mathematics and the pathways for science. And then the biggest, probably broadest group of credits is our elective credits. And those are the types of credits, like, for instance, welding or financial literacy or those types of things that aren't your typical regular classes, if you want to call them, but they're elective classes that maybe fit your interest level. And we have a whole bunch of those here at the DLC that we can offer you. So we really want to personalize your grad plan to courses that make you or are interested in for you and for what you want to do when you leave high school. So moving on, we talked about those 30 level classes. We're going to talk about what all of these numbers mean. So when you guys...
Ryan, we have a question, and I think we will get there in a minute, but just so that people know, we're seeing the questions, and there's a question about whether you write finals at specific times or whether we schedule those.
Okay.
So we'll get to that when we talk maybe at the grade 12 level.
Well, we could talk quickly really right now, but final exams are basically at the very end of your course. Typically, most courses, if we run, we'll talk about semesters in a bit, but you'll typically kind of write a final exam at the very end of your course. And that usually takes place in January for semester 1, and then probably for June in semester 2. And that question there says, do you work at your own pace? You do work at your own pace here. That could be as slow as you need or as quick as you're able to without being too quick. So final exams don't always happen at the same time for every student. It ranges for where you are in the course. But in a typical brick and mortar school, they would have finals in January and June. And we somewhat mirror that here, but it is personalized for each student. So it's not always going to be then. It could be it's basically when you finish the course. So
if I understand it correctly, for most of our students, it's not like you are writing your Science 10 final at Tuesday at 3. It is you'll set that time with your teacher, and that's when you'll write your final.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. So sorry to interrupt. We're gonna figure this out.
Yeah, no problem, Laura. Thank you. So when we talk about the numbers, so on the slide I have on the screen there, we're going to talk about the grade 10 level classes. And whenever we talk about a grade 10 level class, we refer to it as a Science 10 level class. Now, it might seem obvious because you're in grade 10 and it's called a 10. The next one for grade 11, we don't call that History or Science 11. We call that 20 level. And for grade 12, we refer to those as the 30 level. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that everyone's clear on that. So when you hear me talking about different types of credits, for example, History 20, you understand that we're talking about a grade 11 course and not I don't know how you refer to a 20 level, but in our world, a 20 level is a grade 11 course. Okay. Let's take a peek. And this is probably one of the more important slides for the grade 9s and their families moving into grade 10 next year is the required credits for grade 10. And remember, required means that every single student in Saskatchewan has to take these classes to graduate. Okay. So they have to take English A10, English B10, Science 10. So those 3 are absolute musts. And then you have a choice between Social Studies 10, History 10, or Native Studies, and 1 10-level math class. And we'll get into all of those math options at another time. If you're looking for more information as to which one of these social courses do I want to take, we're going to get you into and show you what our website has to describe those courses a little bit later in the slides. Taking a look at grade 11. Actually, I'm just going to back up 1 second here. If we can go back to the slide for grade 10, you can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a minimum of 5 there that we have to have you take. So that means there's going to be some electives in there that we'll go through when we get into those choices. But in grade 10, there's 5 guaranteed classes you have to take. And then we'll talk about the other ones in just a minute, the ones that maybe are a little bit, I don't want to call them more exciting, but they might be more interesting to certain people and certain tastes in courses. Grade 11. There's not a typo here.
It looks like an emptier slide.
It is pretty empty, but in grade 11, there's only 1 required class you have to take. Now, don't go thinking that I only need to take 1 class in grade 11 and boom, I get to go on to grade 12. That's not how it works. But the required class in grade 11, the only one you have to take for graduation is listed there, which is ELA 20. Bear with me, I'll explain more in just a bit.
I think you said that grade 11 is the year of choice.
It is the year of choice. It is the most exciting year for, I think, every high school in terms of, I guess, finding that path of interest and helping you find your goal when you get out of high school. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. Grade 12, you can see there are 3 required courses. We have to take ELA A30, ELA B30, and then one of those history classes. Okay. Remember, if you can see at the bottom, those are compulsory. Okay. Every student in high school has to take those.
Another question here, Ryan, asking, Amaris is asking, what are the maximum? Is there a maximum amount of courses you can take each year in high school?
There really is not a maximum, but there's a recommended amount. For grade 10, and we'll get to that in just a minute, but in grade 10, probably the most you want to take is 10 classes in 1 year. And we kind of break it down to 5 in semester 1 and then 5 in semester 2. And you got to remember, if I can have a quiz here and see if anyone wants to put this in the comments, but does anyone remember how many credits we need to graduate?
Good question. And while they're answering that, I think you went over this, but just to make sure we don't skip over it. Semesters means you're taking usually about 5 classes starting in September, and then you write your exams for that in January. Yes. And then you start again another new set of 5 courses in beginning of February and go through to the end of June.
Yep,
I see we've got answers here. Amaris, Hannah, and
Good
Sierra.
Job. If I had a present, I'd be giving you a present right now. Thank you so much. So 24 credits.
Sav too. They're all on it tonight.
So if we think about high school being kind of 3 years, okay, in grade 10, if I told you probably would take between 8 and 10 classes, you would do that same thing in grade 11 and that same thing in grade 12. If you were to take 10 each year, you're going to end up with 30 credits. And obviously that's more than 24, and that's totally fine. A lot of people graduate with 30 credits. If we were to do 8 and 8 and 8, if you do 8 times 3, that's 24 credits. That's the minimum amount. So it's totally up to you as to how many you take each year. We will talk a little bit about how many grade 10 classes you can take compared to grade 11s. But on average, I would say ballpark 8 to 10 classes each year for those 3 years to get your 24 credits. So I hope I answered that question.
That's great.
Here's our, we're looking for required elective credits. Good. So in grade 11, you're going to take a math class, okay? We don't know which one yet. We'll talk about that. You're also going to take a science class. You're also going to take either history or psychology or psychology 30 or law 30. You're also going to take one of those 3 phys ed classes. Those are required electives. Remember, required means you still have to take them, but you do have a choice. You're also going to be taking 2 practical and applied arts classes or fine arts classes. Once again, you get to choose those options. We'll touch upon those options in just a minute. here is our math pathways. And I know it might be hard to see, and I think, Lori, we've got this PDF document somewhere for these people to look at once they're finished, but we'll do our best with what we got here. So
we do. People can have a look at this and download it after if they'd like. We'll share that with you at the end.
Fantastic. So we begin with the K-9 mathematics, and I'm assuming the majority of us that are watching this are in grade 9 and are going to finish up the grade 9 math here in the next month and a half. When they get into grade 10, they do have a choice right away, right in grade 10. Now, you have to take one of these two, whether it be workplace and apprenticeship mathematics or foundations and pre-calculus of mathematics. So those are the two that we offer. How you choose which one you want to take is a question that is individual as everyone else's grad plan is going to be. It all depends, I think, if you look forward 3 years from now. In fact, 4 years from now for the grade 9s, I guess. So when you graduate, you have to kind of think and work backwards. Will I need calculus? And if you don't know what calculus is at this point, that's totally okay. We can talk about that when we get a hold of you. But we kind of work backwards in this pathway. I recommend that you take both of these math classes in grade 10. And the reason I say that is I don't want you to close any doors or close any options, because if we look at the certain pathways, if I were to just take workplace and apprenticeship math, you can see that that path is very linear. It only allows you to take workplace and apprenticeship math 10, 20, and 30. And there's nothing wrong with that. But certain universities will look to accept certain mathematics. Okay. If I were to say, and I'm going to go to the right-hand side of this pathway, that you love math. Okay. I'm a former math teacher. Here's what I took because I loved math. I took the foundations of pre-calc 10, and then I went into this middle pathway. I took pre-calculus 20, I took pre-calculus 30, and then I ended up in my last semester of grade 12 where I took calculus 30. That's for your pure math lovers, nerds like myself.
I didn't say that.
No, you didn't have to. I'm a proud nerd. I love it. But there's also this pathway as well as the foundations of math 10, 20, and 30. All of these paths are equal in rigor, and they're all equal in the same credit amount. It all depends, though, on what you want to do when you graduate high school. We'll tell you in a little bit how we make those decisions for you.
So in grade 10, what I'm hearing is if you don't have a strong direction on where you think you're going to go for your first career, that it might be worthwhile to take both courses because it'll allow you some options in grade 11 and 12, even if you decide you don't need those options. Absolutely.
Yes. I recommend in all the schools I've ever worked with that students take both of these and see which one they like even.
Mm-hmm.
This could be something that you change your plan in grade 11. And we have lots of students that change their plan when they finish grade 10, when they finish grade 11, going into grade 12. We will talk about how those paths might change, but I really would recommend taking both of these paths because like Lori said, I don't like closing doors. So if you only took this and you wanted to take a math workplace apprentice, you can't jump from the foundations over to the workplace. Okay?
Awesome.
You got to follow those arrows. I see Abby has a question.
Abby wants to know if you can take a grade 11 class in grade 10.
Good question, Abby. The answer to that is yes. Some grade 11 classes, though, will require you to have the grade 10 class beforehand. So if we're looking just at this screen here, Abby, let's say you want to take pre-calculus 20, which is a grade 11 class. You can't just start taking that without having what we call the prerequisite. And the prerequisite is usually the class with the same name, but with a number that's lower. So if you wanted to take pre-calculus 20, you would need to take pre-calculus 10, finish that class, and then you're able to enter the pre-calculus 20 course. So however long it takes you to finish that first 10 level course, you can then jump into the 20 level course if it fits your schedule, Abby. So I hope that makes sense.
Great question.
Are there any other questions with the math? Because the math is typically where I find that there's some uneasiness and some of the words are quite maybe confusing. I've tried my best to kind of describe what I can say for it, but if there's any other questions, this is the time to ask regarding the maths.
And if we have more, I don't see any at the moment, but if we have
Okay.
more as they come in, we'll make sure and bring those up.
Awesome. Great. All right, let's move on to the science then. The science is kind of similar in terms of how there's a pathway. So in grade 10, like I mentioned before, you all will have to take Science 10. That's a required class. When you finish Science 10, you've got 4 different options after that. You've got, on the far left-hand side there, you've got Computer Science 20. And you can see that's a pretty linear path. That only takes you to Computer Science 30. I'm going to kind of skip that one up for a bit. The main 3 that you might take in grade 11 are the Health Science 20, the Environmental Science 20, or the Physical Science 20. And like I mentioned before with the mathematics, where you might want to think about, what am I interested in maybe when I get out of high school, when I want to go to maybe something post-secondary, but it might involve a science. You kind of have to work backwards. So if you know that you might need Chemistry 30 in grade 12, you can follow upwards. So that means I need to take Physical Science 20. Or let's say you wanted to take biology when you were in grade 12. Well, there's a couple options for biology. That means you can either go up and take Health Science 20, or you can kind of go up and over and slide and take Environmental Science 20. So there's a few different pathways there. And we're not going to answer every question or be able to spend too much time on this slide. When we do contact each one of you, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, we can go through this on an individualized type conversation and help you pick the right sciences that you're going to need.
Sounds great, Ryan. There's lots to digest there.
All right. Now, let's kind of get down to the exciting part. Well, I find it exciting because you get to choose and you get to pick the classes that you're interested in. Finally, in all of these years of schooling, you get to pick a class that you think is going to be cool. So we can't take all the electives that you want, like I mentioned, because you've got those compulsory classes. So the other parts of the classes that we need to fill up to make those 24 credits, like I said, we call electives. In grade 10, you get to choose 3 of them. Okay, not a ton, but still 3 choices of classes that you find interesting is better than none. So I like starting with 3. Then in grade 11, remember that was that one class there, that slide maybe was a typo. You can take up to 7 electives in grade 11. Lots of them might be math. Lots of them might be science. There could be lots of fine arts classes. Each one of you gets to choose. And then in grade 12, you get 2 classes, 2 electives, and you have to have at least 2. You can take more, but you have to have at least 2. In grade 12, they say, and remember the government tells us how many classes we need. Saskatchewan says you have to take at least 2 electives at grade 12 level. Okay. You can see there as well that we have a website that we will show you in a minute, but I'm going to go through next some of the grade 10 electives.
I'm so sorry. We have one question from Willow.
Okay.
And I just think before we get too far from math, I would just put that up. Willow's asking, what's workplace and apprenticeship math mostly about?
Oh, good question, Willow. So workplace and apprenticeship math is the easiest way I can kind of describe that is if you were thinking about the trades type areas, the construction type things. We look at conversion things versus converting metric system. We talk about measurement. We talk about area. There's a lot of projects where you do. I've seen one example of in Math Workplace and Apprenticeship 10 where you design a ski hill, okay, where you're measuring the angles of the chalet. You're measuring the angles of the slope of the ski hill. You are constructing a budget for renting skis. You are doing a budget for the concession stand at the ski hill. So kind of real life mathematics is the workplace and apprenticeship, where I can, because like I said before, I'm a super nerd. The other maths, I call them kind of like the pure mathematics, where you're looking at your algebra, your trigonometry, your geometry, those types of math. So that's probably the easiest way I can describe it. When we get to show you the website, all of our courses do have a description in there that we'll talk about in just a minute. But I hope that answered that question for you.
Great job, Ryan.
So let's look at these grade 10 electives. Okay, remember you get to take 3. Okay, so there's some of these electives range from accounting, ag tech cow calf, ag tech field crop, auto body, Christian ethics, communications media, all of those, photography, info pro, equine, I didn't even know what
I'm
equine was.
loving I dance every time I hear an ag class.
Yes, Lori is one of our ag coordinators here, so she loves those ones. Yeah. So
Well,
equine, info pro, mechanics, all kinds of different classes there.
Nicole is picking up on what you're saying there. She's asking, how do you take a hands-on elective like auto body or welding through the DLC?
Very good question. So how we have some of these courses set up, not all of them are like this, but there are some that, like you mentioned, it is a hands-on course. So in the grade 10 level, we typically focus on the theory. Okay. We do our best to give you the history of welding, what welding looks like now, what the careers are in welding, and we get into some of the basic things that you would do if you were a welder. Once you, and you have an option as well as some of these courses to do a work placement. Now that's kind of, we don't offer work placements for all of our courses, but some of these offer work placements if you're in our Sun West area, where you get to go out into a welding shop and do certain hours in the welding field. So we have some of those for mechanics, for welding, for construction. And there's some caveats, I guess, in that too, where you have to be near where one of our work placement teachers can supervise that. So there are certain cases, but we've had students that have driven into Saskatoon and we've had a workplace teacher set up a workplace for these kids in welding. And they do anywhere from 25 to 50 hours of what we call work placement for those courses. So most of the time in grade 10, though, we focus on those theory portions where they're just kind of learning about that on their online course.
Another great question.
That was. And that's the job I used to do, is the work placement coordinator for all those courses. So I've got a place in my heart for those ones. So grade 11, you can see, remember that, we all remember because I keep bringing it up, the typo screen. And all of those electives that we have to choose from in grade 11, we can see all of them here. There's a lot more. I'm not going to go through all of them, but you can see we add to the cow-calf. Notice now it's called a 20 level. All grade 11 classes are called 20. You can see some 30s in here, and they're a little kind of tricky to describe, but most of these you'll see here are all 20 levels. Don't worry about the L for now. That just refers to locally determined. It doesn't change the fact that it's still a credit. It just means that we specialize those classes in our DLC building. So yay for us. Yeah,
the L for locally developed means that we have come up with that content. And so that's one of the reasons why we have all of these different things like astronomy and animation and psychology. There's some great courses in there for you to dive into. Another question here from Robert says, what is InfoPro exactly?
All right. Info processing is basically dealing with computers. So we train you on lots of the Office products. We train you on, well, all kinds of different software products. And we have that in it's basically all, well, it is all online. And we've got that in InfoPro 10. And I think we have InfoPro 20 here too. Maybe it's not listed on here, but I'm pretty sure we have that in the 20 level as well. So yeah, that's basically just, it's dealing with computers.
Maris is asking, are there any outside of school activities or groups that count for credits? I can take a stab at some of the things. I don't know that we have any curricular clubs. We do have some extracurricular clubs, like our book club, and we also have activities like our Farm to Fork event. And I know that the teachers who are most directly involved in that, the ELA teachers and the various different ag course teachers, tend to try and work it so that one of your projects from your course actually counts with those events. So although they aren't necessarily curricular clubs, sometimes the events that we can offer or the clubs that we have that will read a book that you can then use in your ELA class. Anything to add to that, Ryan?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, some of the classes like the cow-calf and the field crop, often the projects are, obviously, we're not going to bring in cattle into the DLC or into your house. So you're outside dealing with those animals in an outdoor setting that aren't your typical, obviously, classroom type setting. So,
but if they would, I'd sign up for that class.
I am scared of animals, so I would not. So, yeah.
All right, grade 12, take us forward.
Grade 12. I I'm not going to read them all, but you can see there's even more there with the grade 12. Lori talked about astronomy. We've got this CAD is called computer animated drafting, entrepreneurship, equine shows up again. We've got personal finance, which is one of our newer ones that I really love. Linguistics, mechanics, law, all kinds of classes. And I think if we could show the website, describing all of our different courses there, we can click on that, and there's what it looks like, where you can see and click on certain types of courses based on, I guess, strands, if you will. There's a math strand, science, ELA, and so on. And it gives you lots of different descriptions of all the courses that I've touched on and not touched on.
So at our website, sunwestdlc.ca, if you click on courses, you'll come to this page for high school, and you'll be able to yep, perfect, click on DLC courses. You can even look at the elementary courses, but as you look into the next rows, you'll pick your interest area, and every course has a course description. It talks about what you need to provide, what the school provides, and what credit you'll get at the end of the course. So all of that information is there, and I highly encourage you to go and browse through some of those courses if you're interested. We do have a question here from Veronique. I just butchered that. I did not pronounce that well. About forensic science. Oh. Is that one that you know about, Ryan?
I'm not a huge expert on forensic science, but I know they talk about, if you think of the Law and Order type shows that you see on TV, similar type thing where we deal with, I know they deal with DNA and fingerprinting. They do some blood splatter analysis. That's probably my level of expertise in forensic science. But like Lori said, there'll be a much better description on that website that will explain that course for you. But it is a pretty cool course. I know that.
Awesome.
All right. So moving on, we're almost done. And then we'll have time for some questions. This is something that our academic advisor here, and I know it's really tough to see, but when our academic advisors get on the phone and contact you, what we're going to be working with is this document here. And basically, we're just going to plan out kind of what you're taking. We will try to do as close to a 3-year plan as we can. If we're not sure about that, we can focus on just next year and pick out some of those grade 10 classes that we have. But you'll see that you will all receive this document as an attachment once our academic advisor has had a chance to work with you. And we will put all these in here, and eventually we'll fill it with your mark as you go on to grade 11. We'll put all your marks in here, and just kind of under the comment section when you're planning on taking this. So you have this to peruse on your own once we have one completed for you. So be looking for that after we have a conversation with your academic advisor.
I think you had said, Ryan, when we were first looking at this, that one of the things you would tell kids is not to worry that this is written in stone.
Absolutely. No. The path that we choose coming up here for you guys in grade 9, going into grade 10, it could be all the way to grade 12. If we have a good plan that you find that I know already what I want to do when I get out of high school, I know I want to be this, we can make as close to stone path, if you will. But a lot of people change their paths throughout the time that they're in high school. We could be changing classes in October that you might have picked for semester 2. We could be changing classes for grade 11 and you thought, hey, I decided in 2 weeks from now when we do give you a call, or a month from when we give you a call, I'm planning on taking these courses in grade 11, and that might change. Okay, and that's fine. You have the ability to choose whatever classes you want, as long as my job basically as an academic advisor is whatever courses you choose, I make sure that they're the right ones for you to graduate and the right ones that you're going to get for moving on to post-secondary. So that's what we do here with the academic advisors here at DLC.
Awesome.
All right, a couple more slides here, and then we're kind of ready to go for questions. The last thing I talked about that the government of Saskatchewan runs is what we call transcripts. And what transcripts are, you're going to hear me talking about those, I guess probably more at a later time when you're in grade 10. It's just a collection of all your records of your marks that you get in high school. Remember, for grade 10 classes, we we go on percentages. We're not going to be using the rubrics anymore. So you'll have a percentage that you will receive. And once your final exam has been written and your teacher has collated all of your marks for all of your assignments and whatever else was included in the course, that mark gets sent electronically to our ministry in Regina, and it's permanently housed there. In fact, I looked up my transcript just the other day, and yeah, I'm old, and it still exists there. That we keep those records for forever. So, like I said on the screen here, we state those as a percentage, and I'll talk more about those kind of probably closer to grade 11. We'll be saying, hey, did we get a chance to look at your transcript? And you'll be like, I remember him talking about that. But yeah, it's just it's a digital document of all your marks.
Fantastic.
Okay, got another question here.
So Amaris is asking, what happens if you don't finish your course and you can't write your final before the summer starts?
Well, Amaris, that's a very good question. And we try to make sure that all of our courses are written and finished before the end of June. There might be some extenuating circumstances, but for the best that we try here, we try to make sure that all of our courses are done by the end of June. If we're finding that we're falling behind in some of our courses, the academic advisors probably will be reaching out to you before that probably happens, or if it is happening, and just have a conversation. Said, hey, I noticed maybe, Amaris, that you've taken 5 classes this semester and you're behind in a few of them. Maybe we can drop a couple. You can pick them up next year, and we can focus on the 3 that you're in right now so that we do complete those by the end of June. So ideally, we want to finish those by the end of June, and that's the goal behind all of our high school courses.
Yeah, that's a tough one, but I appreciate your answer, Ryan. And I think the best thing to do, like you say, is to reach out to your teachers as soon as you can to come up with a plan, hey?
You bet. Yeah, and more than likely, our academic advisors will probably catch that before we run into a situation that causes for panic. So
hey, perfect.
So this next, and I think it's probably one of our last slides here, is something that I like to talk to parents and the grade 9 students together. And this is something that I think it's important for the student and the parents to talk together about. It's kind of a little reflective in terms of what you've done in school already. It's kind of like, what kind of occupation are you interested in? What type of work do you like doing? Do you find that work valuable? Because there's certain things that I might be good at. I'm really good at shoveling a driveway, but I don't really like it. So I'm not looking like I want to do that for the rest of my life, but maybe I would. And then what kind of learning do you like? What kind of subjects do you find interesting? These are really good guiding questions that it would be nice if you had a chance to talk to someone about. And if you're not okay talking with mom or dad, our academic advisors will probably start off our conversations with you with these types of questions. It allows us to kind of guide you into telling us what we need to do to help you pick those classes for grade 12, maybe post-secondary, and maybe we don't know. It's grade 9. I know I tell this to my grade 9s all the time. How the heck am I supposed to know what I want to do when I leave high school? I'm only in grade 9. Well, the answer is you might not. Some do, most don't. So paths change, plans change. It's okay. Our job here is to make sure grade 10 is taken care of. Maybe you get a clear path moving to grade 11, clear path moving to grade 12, and then hope that we have the right one when you graduate our high school. So these are some of the questions that our academic advisors will be calling you about and beginning that Word document that I showed you earlier about our grad plans. So that's kind of what I've got for you here. So Lori, was there any other questions you saw in there?
Great questions for us, Ryan. The one that I had in my mind that I would add, this is the one that I'm saying to my kid, what are you willing to put up with? What picks most people that you find you don't mind putting up with? Because that often takes you down a path of something that you really love. So I will sit at my desk and write into the night, and some people would think that's crazy talk, but I don't mind putting in extra hours for something like that. So that's another way to think about that. And it sounds like you've given lots of kids and families lots to think about. I know we'll be having several of those conversations. I just want to reiterate what happens next for our grade 9 kids. I know they've got lots to consider. I think I heard you say that you're going to be reaching out to the grade 9 soon.
Yes, absolutely. Registration just opened up for high school here at the DLC. So we've gone through, today's Wednesday, we've had 3 days since it's been open. We've had registrations come in already. Every grade 9 student is more than welcome to go to DLC Go and pick classes if you so desire. But we're kind of focusing on our grade 11s that are coming back for grade 12. We'll finish up those grad plans, then we move to the grade 11s, and then we'll be meeting up with all the grade 10s. I would say probably within 3 weeks, hopefully sooner, depending on how we get through all of these other grad plans. But yeah, we're going to go through and we're going to help you pick those classes. That doesn't mean that you can't go on that website and find classes that might interest you. We might change a whole bunch of them, though, like if we have some things that maybe don't fit, and that's okay. But we'll have those conversations, and we'll make everyone's path as clear as we can. So yeah, expect a phone call from either myself or a couple of other members from our team to talk to you about those plans.
Yeah. So for now, if you know what you want, you feel strong about what courses you want to take in grade 10, go in, look them up. Feel free to go ahead and request them. If you're not so sure and it's new, feel free to hang on, because our academic advisors are going to be reaching out to you in the next few weeks. They're just working their way through the students that are setting up for graduation and then at grade 11s, and they'll be calling you here shortly. So I know at our house, we're going to be having a lot of those conversations and looking forward to getting ready for the fall as well. I see that we've got some questions coming in. So I think we'll go here. If you take certain electives, will it help you get into post-secondary school that is along the same lines?
Great question. Absolutely. And that's why we've got so many. That's the cool part of this school here at the DLC, is we've got probably the most electives out of any school in all of, I would say, Saskatchewan, guaranteed, maybe Western Canada, who knows. But yeah, like if you're interested in, I'll use trades, for example. You can take those trades classes. If you wanted to be a welder, you can take the welding classes that most schools don't offer, construction. But the same sense, math nerd here, I took all those math classes because I wanted to be a math teacher. Why? Who knows? But those are the ones that interest me. And so those are the ones I took. We've got even phys ed classes that you can take here with exercise science and wellness. A lot of there's a visual arts class. There's a digital photography classes. All of those electives are something that the universities, and every program is different, so I can't speak to everyone, but those are classes that will help you, if not required, for those programs when you get into post-secondary.
You know, one thing that comes to mind there as well, Abby, is that the courses are a great way for you to check it out and to test whether it's fun or not, whether you like it or not. And so I work with our agricultural equipment technician course, which does have a work placement, and that's great opportunity for our kids, not just to do the theory of nuts and bolts and lubricants and engines, but then they also get to go out and do the work and see if that works for them or if not. Our animation course is actually delivered in cooperation with Van-Ass. I can't think of the correct name, but our instructors work with instructors from Pixar and Disney. So some of our high school courses are pretty cool in that there is that pipeline to the next level of what the industry is doing. Can I get you to take us back? You did a great job and I missed it there. For anybody who does want to see all of the details that were in Ryan's presentation, we just wanted to show you, this is our DLC and Me page. Feel free, if you're a student of the DLC, this is like your homeroom. So you can come to DLC and Me, click on 10 to 12, and then that will take you to this page, and you'll see there's all sorts of information about choosing classes. Later, there'll be information about scholarships that you can access, and down on this page is where you can access Ryan's presentation materials from tonight.
As well on there too, Lori, I'll add that there's lots of, especially nowadays with a lot of things gone virtual, we've got lots of virtual open houses in that post-secondary planning there, where we'll provide links for different post-secondary organizations that will have live events where you can ask them questions as well. If you wanted to start working backwards, like I mentioned before, of, hey, I wanted to get into medicine, you can go into U of S and you can ask people at the College of Medicine about what we need to take, what you need to be ready for, all kinds of things, all sitting there right on that DLC and Me page.
Absolutely. Awesome. So we hope that that helps you out. I'm going to pop this question in. We also have a question about changing your choice of occupation. So what happens if you get into grade 12 and you've decided that you're going to take a different path and you don't have the 10 and 20 level courses to take the 30 course?
All right. Good question. That's kind of a tricky one, though. Most of the time, well, let's hope we don't have to worry about that, but we might have to go back and take those prerequisite courses. And we do offer summer school that we can find times where we can catch up on those. We can possibly change the plan that we're in. So if in grade 12 you maybe had a couple of electives that we could switch out and go back and take the 10 and the 20 so that you could take that 30 level course. So it's just a matter of juggling. But I would say, Amaris, the more conversations we have with you and the ones that you want to have back with us with the academic advisor, we're easy to get a hold of. Those types of things to kind of attack that as early as we can. We'll try to alleviate that kind of stress that we would have in grade 12 if that did happen. But there are ways around it. It's happened before, and we just have to kind of come up with a creative solution.
I think that that's something, Amaris, that I'm thinking about too. My daughter's in grade 9, as I said, and I guess our concern is that exact situation. We don't want to find her in grade 12 and not have her have a whole swack of courses. And I guess what my thinking as a parent is right now is making sure that we take the broadest level at the 10 level. Mm-hmm. And so if we do miss a science or calculus or something, then we only have maybe that 1 or 2 classes that we could pick up maybe over a summer school or, like you say, over another semester. But if you're having those early conversations, hopefully you're covering off as broad a base as you can, yeah. And then it only leaves you with maybe 1 or 2 holes that we can fill through a summer school, for example.
You'll often hear our academic advisors refer to, we don't want to close any doors. So we'll give you advice on hey, maybe just take this just in case you thought you were going to become a doctor and now you want to become a welder. Well, that's a very broad switch of careers, but we can manage that. But like I said, the more conversations we have, we're here for you. The academic advisors are here to help you. So those conversations can only allow us to not be in that situation when we're in grade 12.
Great question. Unicorners 47 wants to know, what courses do you want to take for computer science? And I think there was a path specifically for that.
There was, yeah. There's a computer science path, but you would also want to take, if we can scroll to the slide, possibly of the math pathways. I can start with that first. It'll be quick. But if you remember that calculus, pre-calculus pathway, that far, oh no, that was in the middle path. That's the one that I'll just wait for our slide to pop up here. Boom, right there. So that middle pathway where you've got your pre-calculus 20, pre-calculus 30, and calculus 30, those are the math pathways that you would probably want to take. Computer science, very math oriented. And then the next slide with the sciences there, Ashley, we can get that one up there. That right-hand side is another good path that we would recommend for computer science. And as well, I would also really recommend physics and physical science, just for more math that might pop up into that field of work.
Awesome. I think we've covered most of the questions that I see coming in. And I know one of my questions was if we could take a 30 level class in grade 10. I think I heard you say yes, that's possible if you have the prerequisites.
Yep.
Awesome. Any other common questions that you hear, Ryan, that you want to make sure we cover here?
I think we're good. Like I said, if you have any questions, you can reach us here at the DLC quite easy. So.
Okay, great. Well, I want to thank you again, Ryan. This has been really helpful for me personally, and I hope it's been helpful for everybody at home. Thanks so much, Ryan, for giving us your expertise tonight.
Thank you. Looking forward to talking with all of you guys.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for everybody for joining us at home. We hope this has been helpful. Don't hesitate to send us an email. Oh, I was supposed to tell you that. If you do still have questions that we weren't able to get to tonight, you can email us at dlchelp, and we'll make sure and answer your questions. Or remember, your DLC advisor will be calling you in a few weeks to go over your full plan. So with that, I'll say thank you. Oh, hang on. Every time I say thank you, I want to make sure there was no more questions, and it's just lovely people saying thank you.
You're welcome, Nicole.
Thank you, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. We hope this has been helpful. Everybody, have a great evening. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see you again soon.
Bye-bye.